Assalamu alaikum. I would like to welcome all of you for this panel. Our panel today for importance of data in our AI or the artificial intelligent life. I would like also to welcome our panelists, starting Dr. Nabeel Alfayoumi, Chief of Knowledge for Development at Royal Scientific Society, Professor Ahmed Guessoum, Professor at University of Science and Technology, Hawari Boumediene from Algeria, Mr. Abed Kasaji, he's Senior Product Manager at Kareem. He's doing AI and machine learning platform. And Mr. Al-Momani, Research Associate at Ulm University from Germany. Please welcome all of them.
دكتور أحب أنوه في البداية قبل إنه تقدروا إذا في حد عنده أي سؤال بتدخلوا على الأبليكيشن تسألوا اللي بدكم إياه ويتم الإجابة إن شاء الله.
شكرا.
تفضل.
So we'll do the panel like little bit different from maybe other panelists. I would like to ask our panelists to introduce themselves and they can talk about his name, his research area, and we'll start from Dr. Nabeel, please.
So good morning, صباح الخير جميعا. My name is Nabeel Alfayoumi. I'm by design an information and data technologist. I assume the position of Chief of Knowledge for Development at the Royal Scientific Society, which means we're using technology to process the data across the different disciplines that RSS works across, and I will elaborate further as we speak and talk.
Assalamu alaikum, good morning. I'm Ahmed Guessoum. I'm a professor of computer science at the University of Science and Technology, Hawari Boumediene in Algeria. I mainly work on machine learning and natural language processing for different applications, specifically for the Arabic language and machine translation.
يعطيكم العافية. اسمي عبد العزيز كاسجي. I work at Kareem. I lead the machine learning and AI platform product. And this product actually powers all of our AI use cases, from marketplace to dispatching to pricing and etc. And we'll talk about it more, inshallah, in the questions.
Thank you for attending the session. My name is Al-Momani. I am a research associate at Ulm University in Germany. My research interests broadly tackle the issues of security, privacy, and machine learning applications. I mainly work in use cases related to automotive industry use cases. If you're interested in any, we can just talk during the session about them.
No, all of us, we know the big data, and big data, it's a big word. Everybody say big data, and big data is touch everything in our life. So as a prediction, it will be in our mic, but we don't have AI so far in this room. So we need to discuss what's the big data and how we can use the big data in machine learning or deep learning and take advantage for prediction, data analytic, and data analysis. So I will have some question to our panelists. After that, we'll open the floor to the audience because we'd like to have more interact if they have any question to ask our panelists. And this is a good chance, a good opportunity for all of us to interact and to get advantage of that. So my first question for Dr. Nabeel about defining what's the word of big data. Because we hear big data everywhere and many times. And what's the relationship between big data and the AI in your research area?
Okay. So I'll just refer to the academic definition of big data. So having a huge database is not really big data. So the triple V's, it's volume, variety, and velocity. So the volume, having a huge volume of data is one of the criteria. The velocity of update, so you have a stream of data coming and being updated is another criteria, okay? And the variety, so multiple sources of data are integrated, and when you have that setup is when you call it big data. It is controversial, however, because there are many definitions, but from my perspective, this is what I believe is big data. Multiple sources, variety, velocity, and volume of data. How it relates to AI? AI is just a tool, because without data and qualified data, then AI is simply a useless tool. The quality of data and the qualifications of data, and I don't want to get deep because maybe the questions we will dig deeper into that, because in many situations, people are using AI for the sake of AI without having the right data or the qualified data in order to get useful results. And I talked in my presentation yesterday about foundational operation and transformation. To get into the transformation level using AI, you need high quality data.
I think the mic is working now. So we need to ask the same question to define the big data from another opinion.
As my colleague has just said, there are the famous 3 V's, volume, velocity, and variety. So these are very huge volumes of data and very large velocity, speed of acquiring this data. And obviously the variety, different types of data. It can be speech, it can be text, it can be audio, video, images, what have you. All of these varieties of data, we have to handle them. Now, the problem is that most of the old software that, or approaches to developing software that handled these 3 V's are no longer usable. We cannot foresee algorithmically how to handle all these varieties of features of the data and so on. And that's where artificial intelligence, that's where machine learning comes into play. And this is what makes the overall picture of big data. If I give you just examples of what we mean by big data, what is called as the data or the global data sphere, the data universe, we moved in 2013 from something like 4.4 zettabytes, that is 1,000 billion bytes. It's expected to reach 10 times, 44 zettabytes in 2020, and 175 zettabytes in 2025, 5 years later. So it's an exponential growth of this amount of data, and there is no way you can handle this except at this big scale. We are producing data every day, every second. Now, as you're sitting, you are probably releasing some data, and this is a big challenge to humanity today.
Thank you. Now, zettabyte is a large number for me, you know. So if I need to ask Mr. Abed, from your point of view, and Karim, what's the big data can be defined?
So thank you for this question. I think, to be honest, I'll speak in Arabic as well. يعني البيج داتا هي concept، بس I think شركات مش لازم تركز على البيج داتا، لازم تركز على الرايت داتا زي ما تفضلوا الدكاترة. وزي ما حكيت امبارح، واحدة من الأشياء اللي شركات ال AI والإنجينيرز لازم يفهموها اللي هو موضوع ال strategic data acquisition. لو أنت عندك application، كيف هاي الابليكيشن حتعمل logs، حتعمل data، how will it enrich your system. In the same time لازم هاي الداتا تكون structured وتكون جوا data warehouses وتكون accessible للناس إنهم يستخدموها بالطريقة اللي أنت بتتخيلها والطريقة اللي هي مناسبة جدا. واحدة من الكومنتس كانت اليوم من الدكتور البراك، حكى إنه 90% من الداتا اللي بالwarehouse wasn't used. Actually I think هاي المشكلة كانت بالداتا سيلكشن. انت مش لازم تستور كل الداتا، مش لازم تحكي انه انا عندي زيتا بايتس من نفس الرو copied again and again. You just need the right amount of data that will solve an actual problem. فهي I think the definition of big data is having the enough samples of the data that you want to solve an actual problem in a proper accuracy for that use case. Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you. Said Ala, as a PhD student and researcher in this big data, can you define the big data from the research point of view?
Yep, thank you. I want to define actually big data from a privacy perspective now, just to guide the direction into a little bit different way. From privacy perspective, big data does not necessarily mean how much data you own. I mean, this also aligned with what you just said. It's what's more important is what data do you actually collect or process about an individual, for example. It doesn't have to be too much. It's just like how sensitive it is. And from another point from privacy perspective is that when you process a data, you also produce a new data or new information about an individual. This can be like a behavior, like a buying behavior or a habit that he used to do. He used to classify data with machine learning that, okay, these kind of people are interested in doing X, but these kind of people are interested in doing Y. All these kind of like align all together with the big data, because even the further processed data can even be further processed, and another further and further sensitive information and behavior will be revealed to service providers and so on. Yeah.
Thank you. We have two opinions, big data and maybe small data, but more beneficial for our use. That leads us to a question to Dr. Nabeel. Do you think that we are ready for the data? Doesn't matter, it's big data or small data inside Jordan or in your organization, and what the challenges for that?
So the question is, it's a readiness question. So if we look at the data terrain in Jordan, it varies substantially depending on the organization, depending on the awareness of the organization of the value of the data. However, I do believe that a large amount of the available data is unfortunately unqualified for data analytics. That's why I always advise to revise the data strategy before looking at the AI strategy, look at the data strategy. Fortunately, the government has been recently working on an open data policy, and that opened the door for reviewing the data strategies. What kind of data we are collecting? Is it the right data to do analytics? Does it have the right qualities to come up with reasonable outcomes? Of course, after defining, the problems and the objectives of analyzing the data. If I want to address the data from our perspective as the Royal Scientific Society, we were one of the first organizations to take attention about our data, especially that on our campus we have a huge amount of data streaming into the organization because we touch on sustainability, sustainable development. So we have a huge amount of monitoring data, whether be it water monitoring data or air quality monitoring data, collected at our campus and analyzed in real time. But now we are looking back at the data so that we can learn from the history, build patterns, do some correlation analysis in order to get up to the level of advanced data analytics. And then if we reach that point, we will be thinking about AI applications, and there are numerous applications for the AI. Predictive analysis for climate change, predicting pollutions, be it water pollution or air pollution, predicting water consumption patterns to support water sustainability, and so on. And that gets into other domains that would probably take me 2 hours to talk about, so I'll leave the floor to my colleague to answer his question.
Thank you so much. It's good to know. Now, Professor Ahmed, during my chat with you this like 14 minutes ago or 20 minutes ago, you mentioned very nice subject, and I read your bio about the Arabic machine translation. So if I look to social media, most of it maybe in English. So far in Arab world, we don't have something about translate Arabic. How you can define or let us know and the audience know about the Arabic machine translation, and what you do there, and how you connect that with the AI.
Okay. Machine translation, as you all know, and I'm sure all of you are using some machine translation system, especially on the internet. In machine translation, people try to develop ways of translating from one language to another so that it becomes seamless. You translate from English to French, to Chinese, and so on. And we're reaching now qualities for some pairs of languages which are human-like quality translation. Arabic machine translation is part of this effort, which is part of more generally what we call natural language processing. So we're trying to make, in natural language processing, you try to make sense of texts, what you are reading, and it can be speech, the audio, what you are hearing, you make sense of that and then process it as text, understand what is meant. You have all these virtual assistants and so on. So under natural language processing, you have this effort on machine translation. In terms more specifically of Arabic machine translation, now the techniques that are being used, whether it is for Arabic machine translation or for any other, say, English, Arabic, or any other pair of languages, now the techniques are fairly standard. It started as rules, and now we're moving into machine learning, neural networks, deep learning, and so on. So these are the same approaches, the same techniques. The challenge is the processing of the Arabic language itself. Arabic is a fairly complex language, although there are patterns of construction of words and so on, but it remains a very complex language to handle. So the effort that we have been putting on Arabic machine translation is how to improve the quality of the translation, the ambiguities, for example, that may exist in finding the right word meaning, or category, grammatical category, finding the sentence, the grammatical analysis, and finding the translation. You may have different ways of translating a sentence. Which one is the best? So overall, this is what we are trying to do, using usually deep learning architectures, the one which is most suitable, comparing them. And obviously, we need a lot of data. Big data comes here. In order to do natural language processing, or in order to do machine translation, you need millions of sentences. Say an English sentence, this is how an expert would translate it. And from these millions or hundreds of thousands of sentences or pairs of translations, the machine tries to learn what is the best way of translating. So this is the effort overall.
Thank you so much. Said Abed, now Kareem is like as example for like a company, and I'm sure you have artificial intelligence platform. Can you tell us what's the kind of platform you are using in Kareem in real life, and what's your recommendation for the best platform?
So since machine learning and AI has picked up recently, especially like in the core architecture of almost every tech company, when we looked at this problem 3 years back, we couldn't find a ready solution in the market that can actually satisfy our needs. As you know, a machine learning model needs to be trained on relevant and accurate data. And we want it to be very accurate because we know our market is so diverse. If we train a model to predict or detect fraud in Karachi, we can't use that same model and deploy it in Amman. We have two different behaviors that will actually hurt our systems instead of improving and adding value. So we decided to build our own system in-house on top of different open source technologies. Luckily, as of today, I feel there are a lot of very good and solid platforms in the market. There are many companies that have invested efforts like IBM, like Intel. Google Cloud is a very good AI platform to support your kind of like AI transformation with a lot of features like auto AI and auto machine learning. So I think the answer is the best platform is the platform that really suits your needs. If you're starting and you want to focus on your business, then as of today, I don't suggest that you build your own platform. Just use whatever there in the market that suits your need. If you are at a stage where you can't find the solution that actually fits 100% your need, then try to get something almost ready and tweak it. You just need to prove value from AI, and I think that's the biggest challenge in organizations. Engineers and data scientists and machine learning practitioners, they give timelines as 6 months and 1 year to get value from AI, and I think that's not something very comfortable to a lot of business people. So the role here is to try to extract the value as soon as possible, whether it's from an external platform or building your internal platform.
Thanks so much. Said Ala, since you did some research in wireless communication, can you explain to us the use of AI? I know there's some ongoing in 5G and 5G beyond and 6G, but currently, is there AI used in wireless communication? And what I use AI in social media? And we need to be careful using AI in social media because it has two effects, two edges. Government, they can abuse AI using in social media to catch the bad people or the good people sometimes. So can you explain to us what you do in wireless communication?
Yep, thank you. So in wireless communication, I'm actually not 100% sure whether it's in practice now or not yet. But there has been a lot of research going on in fingerprinting devices, for example, fingerprinting the wireless devices for identification purposes, because we all know that wireless devices, for example, wireless sensor networks or IoT devices, they have to communicate with each other. And if you want to put like heavy cryptographic techniques there, it will consume a lot of time and simply it won't work. What people recently did in research is that try to leverage the wireless channel between the two devices that are communicating, and trying even to predict what kind of changes this wireless channel may have, and based on that, trying to identify the sender of a message, whether that is actually the actual sender of the message or just like a man in the middle, for example. And there has been a lot of research going on in that field. Regarding the other part of the question, regarding the social media, let's say, and so on, AI, of course, is used heavily in this aspect. I mean, we all heard we're still hearing the news about Russia going into the elections, into the US elections, and try to manipulate it using, I don't know, Facebook, Google, whatever services are there. So there is definitely, and as you just mentioned, it's kind of like 2 points. At one point, users benefit from AI in social media because you have kind of like, it's similar to the targeted advertisement. So when you are interested in a specific kind of news, you don't want to keep like scrolling around the web page to find like some irrelevant news articles or so. So users benefit from that, but on the other hand, government service providers and so on, they also reveal your interest in what kind of news are you interested in, what kind of political party you relate with, and so on.
Yes, please, sure.
Thank you. Just to complete the picture that we may be giving, definitely we need quality data from this big data in order to get good results. But we should not be misunderstood that if you do not have quality data, depending on the applications, it doesn't mean there is nothing that can be done. I give you a couple of examples. I worked with some students of mine on social media, on Facebook, what is called sentiment analysis. And guess what? On the Algerian dialect. It's pretty informal, the exchanges that you get on Facebook, pretty informal. It's Darija, the dialect. Sometimes it's written in Arabizi, what is sort of Latin characters. Sometimes some French words come into the Arabic and so on. Very complex. The data is very poor quality. this did not prevent us from doing a lot of natural language processing in order to extract the useful data and make it as much quality data in order to get sentiment analysis and know this is a positive statement, a negative statement. And companies, this was for companies that would use it. Another example that I would give, I had some students of mine who worked on a sales platform in Algeria, the most famous one. They have huge amounts of data, and we wanted to predict prices of cars and another application prices of houses and apartments and so on. And the data was horrible, excuse me the term, very dirty data, not cleaned up and so on. And we had to do this automatically, not by hand. We had huge amounts of data, but the techniques are there which allow us, especially with natural language processing, which allow us to extract as good data from that. And we were able to predict whether a price of a house or a car is acceptable or not acceptable in that context. So I just wanted to add.
May I add one more example on this topic? So actually, that's a very good example of getting data even when you don't have it. So I recently met a startup in London, and what they do is that they give you walking directions inside the city, but their mission is kind of not giving you the Google Maps direction, because that's usually the shortest path. They wanted to give you the safest path to walk. So obviously you don't want to walk inside a park or maybe in a dark street or something. So how they got the data, if this street is safe to walk or not, they went to Google locations and they looked at the places in those streets. So if there is a restaurant, if there is like an open place, they looked at the opening hours and they figured out, yes, if there is a restaurant here, then this means that's a busy, well-lit street. So sometimes, even if you don't have the data, there are many ways to capture some good quality data, even if it's not generated by your system or not collected by you.
Okay, thank you. That's lead us to another good question about real time for data and AI analysis in real time. I know one group, like I work close with them, we do analysis for 5 million tweets in real time in 3 languages, Turkish, Kurdish, and Farsi. And we need to know who's talking to who and what time. And we make it, big scale. And if any red flag come, we need to report it immediately. Time is very sensitive on that. So imagine 5 million tweets, maybe every hour. We need to do the analysis in real time, because if you miss the real time, somebody maybe do a bomb or something. So real time is very critical. Platform and the speed of the computer is very critical for us. So I need to repeat this question, but maybe this time briefly, because we need to give more room for our audience to have to question us. Dr. Nabeel, how can AI help to sustainable development, maybe in Jordan and in the region?
So sustainability and sustainable development is really critical. So it's a pretext for social economic development. So when you talk about the recent challenges, not only in Jordan but worldwide, but especially in Jordan, when we talk about the scarcity of water and the need to continuously monitor water sources, predict consumption patterns, reduce the water losses across the board, then you need a huge amount of data and you need AI techniques to be able to plan and predict in that area. Same for energy, to plan for your energy mixes, to utilize energy, to reduce the energy losses. Especially if you are moving to smart grids, then AI techniques are key element in order to be able to plan and improve utilization, especially in countries that they don't have excess resources, but also worldwide, these technologies are becoming mainstream for all applications of sustainability. And if we link into the Sustainable Development Goals, 17 goals, definitely most of these, you'll see that data collection, relevant data, and AI techniques are the way to go moving forward, be it for planning or optimization, and we can talk about that more in details if any questions arise.
Thank you. So we talk about the smart and smart city, and I attended like 3 weeks ago a conference about smart city in North Africa, and there is a lot of fund to go to have a smart city. So if we need to use smart city in Arabic cities, how we can define what's the practice, Dr. Ahmed, to have AI platform in Arabic countries and to help us to have a smart city?
Okay. In order to develop an Arabic platform, I would say I will rephrase this in terms of what are the challenges, because developing a platform in any language we should be facing more or less the same challenges. But I think there are some additional challenges which are related to the processing of the Arabic language. The platform itself as a software, it has more or less the same basic blocks, building blocks. Now, in order to handle the Arabic, and depending how smart the city will be with the interactions that the user, the citizen would be having with this platform and so on. So if we really want to make it as smart as possible, now you are facing the challenges of the Arabic language. And the Arabic language, as I was saying earlier, poses some real challenges of processing. Now, what prevents this processing of the Arabic language? I would say there are some key points that I would be listing. That a lot of the efforts on developing the processing of the Arabic language are still very isolated. People are working in some universities, some research centers here and there. Also in the Western world, in the United States, in Europe, there is some interest for the Arabic language. But it remains isolated, especially in the Arab world. Why is it isolated? Like there is nothing like in the European Union where there would be some pan-European projects, research projects, which get the best skills that they had in Europe on a specific problem. We would really need such an effort of gathering. There are competencies throughout the Arab world, working specifically if we are talking about Arabic natural language processing. But each one alone cannot face these challenges, this amount of data, and so on. So we need a pan-Arab effort to define some major strategies to develop platforms or Arabic language solutions. We need funds, of course. We need research. Since, guess what, 9/11, there's been a lot of development on the Arabic language, mainly because of Western interest in the Arabic language. It has brought in some benefits. We need a lot of data, text, we call them corpora, for processing the Arabic language. This requires a lot of money to develop data in order to do anything, machine translation or what have you. And a major challenge that I see is the brain drain. I teach in an Algerian University of Science and Technology, and people contact us from Canada, from France, and so. If you have good students, especially nowadays, people who do natural language processing, who do machine learning, and so on, we take them. And unfortunately, they are taking them. So we spend a couple of years of building good masters skills in intelligent computing systems, natural language and computer vision and so on. And at the end, they come for a reference letter and they go easily to France, to Europe, to Canada, and so on. I think these are major challenges, and we cannot build important things if you start building a wall and it immediately falls down. You lose your skills. So there are many challenges. I don't think that it would be a problem if we were able to handle these aspects.
Thank you so much. Now, Sayyid Abed, back to Karim. Now Karim owned by Uber. And I think Uber, they are thinking to go to autonomous vehicle. For autonomous vehicle, there is a lot of data collection because it's a smart car. We name it smart car. It's including wireless, AI, everything. So we will have a lot of data. How you store these data in the future, And what kind of administrative for this data in the upcoming roadmap if we deploy autonomous vehicle?
Okay. So I'm not going to comment on Careem and Uber. I'm going to talk about autonomous driving in general, or like storing data for that sake. So I think, again, storing data and the most strategic data, the most important to your business, is really an art and a science. You don't want to store everything, and you don't want to solve a problem today but realize that you don't have data and you need 2 years worth of data. So I think that's number one. Number two, I think data by itself is useless. They say data is the new oil, and I think that's very immature thing to say, because oil, you can burn it, anyone can burn it, and then they can get the energy or the heat or whatever. But data needs really smart people, and people who are aware and knowledgeable of the topic to kind of monetize this data and get value out of it. So I think back to the autonomous point, there has been a lot of data collection happening across different, different companies and different approaches. You have like Google with the LiDAR, you have Tesla focusing on cameras, and we're just waiting, to be honest, for the best solution to pan out. I think there was a lot of comments even from Elon Musk that everyone is doing LiDAR is like doomed. So I don't have, as of today, we don't know who's going to win this war. There has been a lot of advancements in this, but as you mentioned, data is the key, and collecting the right data, having 4 cameras instead of 5, 3 cameras instead of 2, or whatever. I think those are the things that anyone should think about when you build your application, when you build your company, is how can I collect the data in the most effective way to serve my goal.
Thank you so much. They instruct me to start question and answer, but I have one question to Said Ala, if you can answer quickly. Since we are talking about autonomous vehicle and driver behavior as a human being, do you think AI can help the behavior of the drivers?
Yeah, sure. To keep it short, I'll just talk about one application of AI for driving behavior, which is detecting anomalous and abnormal driving behavior. So normally when you're driving on the road, your vehicle in the future, at least in the soon future, it will be communicating messages with other vehicles, including own sensors, in-house sensors, and so on. Now these can go into anomaly detection phase, and if any abnormal behavior is detected, it can alert you, or it can like send messages, maybe your vehicle is stolen or so on. So there is definitely a huge application, like a huge amount of applications for AI in driving behaviors. Yeah.
Okay, thank you so much. Now we are ready for your question. Please ask her the questions.
Hello, my name is Mustafa Stia. I'm from Jubilee School. I heard about what you were talking about, and it seems very interesting, especially about, well, for example, a company like Careem, when they got into the industry of taxis through applications, it wasn't very popular. It was still something new, and not everybody was on board with the idea. So what I would like to ask is, me as a person who is developing AI and thinking of what applications to use it from, how can I go to an entrepreneur and set myself aside from anybody else? Because probably my idea, except if it's very unique, millions of other people will have the same idea. So how can I separate myself when pitching an idea, when trying to convince somebody to buy my product, when trying to convince somebody that I am their best option? So how can I prove to the company that I am interested in working for that my product will satisfy their needs on the long term?
I can answer this question if you'd like from your experience. You know, when you have an idea, it's great. All of us, we have idea and dreams. Sometimes we dream to the cloud or to the sky. But your idea, you need to distinguish yourself from the others. But you said you have a lot of other guys, they have millions of ideas. So my suggestion, my recommendation, you need to know what you are doing. This is first. If this is beneficial to the market, then you need to believe in your idea. If you believe on it and it's have a commercial feedback, then it will be a successful idea. That's Not just AI, I need to create idea, create a startup company. It's not work like this. You need to do like study the market, visibility of the idea, the market benefit of that one. Then you need to do what we name it customer feedback. You need to consult with some people and investors, because investors, they put the money in your startup. If you have the feedback, you need to go for that one. This is like my short answer.
Hello, my name is Lana from Modern System School. I have a question that to build any model, we need a specific amount of data, usually a big amount of data, but how we can to know how much data we need to build such model? It's depend on a variety of variables or the amount of variables.
Can I answer that? So I think, don't think about how much data you need. Think about the use case that you're trying to solve. Let's say you're trying to predict if this person has cancer or no. You need to be very accurate, right? And then at that time, you can say, I don't have enough data to make the accuracy 100% or 99.9. But if you're trying to predict if the driver of the car will take right or left and increase 1 minute, maybe you don't need a lot of data at this point, and you're happy with 60%, which is better than flipping a coin. So my view is that it boils down to the objective of your model. If you're trying to improve things as 100% and have like very small false positives, if you're in a critical thing, then you obviously need more data. And how much more, you will know that when you're training your model. And there are ways, by the way, to expand on your data. Even if you don't have enough data, there are like techniques to solve this problem.
So it depends on the issue.
I would say yes, and what you are trying to resolve and the accuracy needed. I don't know if anyone else has any comments.
I might just add that you have to be extremely careful. There's been a lot of discussion these couple of days on the bias or non-bias of the data. So as you are selecting the data, make sure that you are covering the whole span of as much as possible, the span of the possible cases. You may not have a lot of data, but if you try to cover the different phenomena, the different relationships that might exist, you may be well set. And then, as my colleague said, the accuracy of your system, you will realize different techniques and so on. You may realize at some point, I'm short of data. But start with good data, as that is data that is unbiased as much as possible.
Thank you. Now, because the time limitation, we need to like switch the question. We have a few questions there, and we have a question. Just if you said 1 or 2 questions, if you can be specific for the speakers, like if it's direct to speaker or a general question, then we'll go to the floor after that. You can start the question.
Iman asked about, I'm interested in machine learning, machine translation between Arabic and English language. I'm looking for a proper data set that I can train my model on. How can I get one?
Dr. Ahmed.
There are some available data sets that are currently used for translation. So whoever asked the question, if you can get in touch with me, I will send you some references on even some links to data sets. I have a doctoral student who works on this, and we have used some of these available data sets.
Can I ask a question, please? I've got my. This is to Mr. Abed. Sometimes when you're starting with an entrepreneurship or you're starting a company, it's often difficult to decide which kind of data should I keep and which kind of data should I not keep. It's too easy to get carried away and to decide, okay, I'm going to keep this much data, and then later on, when down the line, you get to a point where it's unorganized and it's hard to sift through and go through. So my question is, in this case, how do you first decide what should I keep and what should I not when you're starting out? And then later on, when you want to deploy a solution, for example, if you're going to a company, you may have done all you can, but some kind of, there are some things that you cannot know unless you install the system and start gathering data there. So how do you go about telling a company, for example, you're going to have to trust me with this, but I'm going to need to collect some data so I can improve my system, so I can give you a better experience?
So I'm going to answer this briefly, and then we can have a discussion after. I think, like if you look at Careem today, or Amazon today, or Uber today, you would think that they have figured it out since day one. Well, obviously we haven't. So maybe some data we actually were missing, and we started collecting 2 years ago. So you will make mistakes, obviously, but then you have to focus on your core business. As a startup, you don't want to, if you're into, let's say Careem, like first day, we weren't interested in collecting data about like weather or traffic or who's pooling or like something. We were interested in just making this business work until we get to the first investor and convince them that we have enough traction. Right? So just focus on your core business and what data can support your core business. And then once you move forward, strategically just keep adding data that you think would be important. Not for sure, obviously, because no one knows the future, but then just make sure that you're focused.
Thank you so much. Now, if you have any more questions, please, you can meet with our speakers and you can ask him. Let us thank our speaker for today.